One disagreement among many religious groups in regard to the Lord's Supper is how often is the supper to be observed? Should it be observed annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, every other week, or should it be observed every week or multiple times in 1 week? But does it really make any difference how often the supper is observed? Well, first I would like for you to consider with me today, how many weeks have a first day? The disciples at Troas, with the approval and concurrence of the apostles, assembled on the first day of the week to observe the Lord's Supper. Acts 20 and verse 7 states, "And upon the first day of the week when the disciples came together to break bread." But I have a question. When did the disciples come together to break bread? They came together upon the first day of the week. Well, how about another question? How many weeks have a first day? Well, the answer is every week has a first day. Inasmuch as the disciples came together on the first day of the week to break bread, and every week has a first day, the Lord's Supper should be observed upon the first day of every week. But also let's consider, how often did the Jews keep the Sabbath day? God commanded those brought out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage in Exodus 20 and verse 8, to remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. How often did God expect His people to observe this Sabbath observance? Every Sabbath or just any Sabbath? Was it to be observed every week on the Sabbath or just whenever that individual determined that they wanted to? New Testament Christians are to observe the Lord's Supper just as often as Old Testament Jews were to keep the Sabbath observance, and that is every week. Also, many times when we go into a restaurant or even as we're driving into a community, we see signs that advertise the various social clubs that meet in that community. For instance, we may see a sign that says Rotary Club meets here Monday at 12 o'clock. Well, how often does Rotary meet? They meet every Monday, once every month, or annually? Well, Rotarians know that every week has a Monday, just as faithful Christians know that every week has a Sunday. Therefore, we observe the Lord's Supper every first day of the week. But also it's worth noting that at whatever time God proclaimed a holy convocation in the Old Testament, the language was always calculated to indicate the frequency of observance. A careful and impartial reading of Leviticus 23 will show this to be the case. With respect to the weekly Sabbath observance, God said, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. When the yearly Passover convocation was proclaimed, it was said, "In the 14th day of the first month at even is the Lord's Passover," Leviticus 23 and verse 5. With reference to the annual feast of unleavened bread, "And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto the Lord," Leviticus 23:6. When it came to the Day of Atonement, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, "Also on the 10th day of this 7th month there shall be a day of atonement," Leviticus 23, 26, and 27. Again, the 15th day of this 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto the Lord, Leviticus 23 and verse 34. Friends, when God did not specify a particular 7th day, then every 7th day was implied. When a less frequently observed convocation was proclaimed, the Lord specified the particulars, such as the 14th day of the month, or the 14th day of the first month. Now, how many years have a first month? Well, every year. Now, when the Bible says, "Upon the first day of the week," every first day of the week is implied. If not, then why not? Any event that is celebrated as often as the day rolls around. Take the 4th of July, for example. How often is it celebrated? Once a year, for that is as often as the day rolls around. Now, how often does the first day of the week come? It comes every week. Friends, we want to thank you for joining us for our program today. Please consider these things that we've discussed and have a blessed day.